Someone digging around in your mind takes a lot out of you.
Hi. Can I help you? I need to speak to Cynthia Winston. I need help. I see things.
What kind of things? There is something attached to that girl. Something terrible. We don't know these people. We can't trust them.
Mom, I'm seeing it.
This won't be pleasant. If an entity has attached itself to you, it will be the weakest part of your mind, where you hold the most pain. We'll need to go there to find it. Cynthia, wake up! Where is she? Where's my daughter?
Don't be scared. It's worse if you're afraid.
So welcome back to the SWAU's official channel with a conversation with series. We've got two awesome performers here from the upcoming movie It Feeds. We've got EllieOBrien and Juno Rinaldi. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
And I've got to
Thank
say,
you.
I have watched this film not once, not twice, but 3 times. Because I often find that when a film scares me so much, I've got to watch it again in case I miss anything, any Easter eggs in the background. So we're going to start off with the difficult task of describing what this film is about. So Ellie, if you could tell the audience what It Feeds is all about.
Well, I think it's really a movie. We were kind of talking about this earlier. It's really a film about facing your trauma and knowing that you can't, you got to push through that kind of stuff. So, it's a movie about a young girl who thinks that there's an entity attached to her, and then a psychic and her daughter, played by myself, have to try and help her face that demon. Yeah.
This is a great film, I've got to say. And the great thing about this film is the writing, because, you've got the lovely Ashley Greene and Sean Ashmore that we all know from Twilight and the X-Men movies. But what this film does, it sort of elevates every character. So there's no small character in this film. And I just love it for that. And Juno, your character, if you could describe who you play in this film, because it's one of my favorite characters, to be fair, because she comes across as a woman that would be sipping on a wine when everything else is falling apart around her. But if you can describe who you play in this movie.
I play a woman named Agatha. And I loved your little intro that she was sipping wine and things are falling apart around her. I think that's very accurate. Agatha has had a lot of trauma in her life as well, and has created this friendship with Cynthia, Ashley Greene's character, and feels a kinship towards her. And they sort of team up and go on this journey together, which is all Agatha really wants, is to belong, to be seen, and to find some connection with someone who appreciates her. And there was a lot of comedy involved in it. But I said this earlier too, that I think Chad was able to really strike a beautiful balance between the comedic aspect of Agatha and the groundedness of her, as well as incorporating it into this horror genre.
And Chad does a great job in giving the audience a false sense of security. When you think that everything's fine, then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. I think with Agatha, there's a lot more to tell. And this is why I'm hoping that Chad might be, considering doing a sequel. Because
I love that. Everyone's saying
that would be awesome, because like
I'm
Insidious
in.
and films like that, it would be great to find out more about Agatha. So Ellie, when you got this script, what was your first impressions?
Yeah, it stood out to me as something very different, because I think oftentimes the psychological background of a character is something that you really have to dig to find. And in It Feeds, it's explored on the screen. So the character itself, yes, it's a heavy load to bear as this character, because it is really the emotional crux of the story, I would say, is the most important part. But yeah, it just stood out to me as very different. An actor's film, I think, in that we were given a lot of great tools and great material to work with. So I was really, really excited to hear that I would be on board, and was excited to jump into it for sure.
I think I heard somewhere that you sent your audition tape in, and a week later you were there. Is that right?
Yeah, that's so true. I filmed it when I was visiting my grandmother in Scotland where I grew up, and I like filmed it in her sheltered housing, um like home, and I was, having to scream and be like, I hope everybody's taking their hearing aids out this evening. Like so I'm just and then I had sent it off, and yeah, booked it a couple days after that. I'd actually done 2 auditions. The first one was a while before, and I just kind of put it out my mind, as we do, as actors. You just do something, forget about it, and then so when the second one came through, when I was staying with my grandmother, I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna crack this back open again, get back into this character, and then yeah, I quite literally had to fly home, and I think I got home from Scotland on the Friday and started shooting on the Monday. So
Wow.
it went
Wow.
pretty quickly.
Wow,
Yeah.
no time to spare. So, Juno, what sets this film apart from other horror movies out there? Because I know what sets it apart, but it'd be interesting to find out your thoughts on it.
Well, I'd like to know your thoughts, Brian, because I am not a horror genre person. So this is very new for me to be in this world.
Thing is, for me, I'm scared of horror because I've got an
Oh,
overactive imagination.
oh,
Anything to do with
Yeah.
spirits, anything to do with the devil, that's game over for me. But this film
yeah,
doesn't follow, like, the
right.
traditional sort of cliches, and that's what I find interesting about this movie, is because it just throws you off guard. You're not going to get like a Nightmare on Elm Street. You're not going to get other films like that. This is like a mixed bag, and it's beautifully put together and beautifully acted on screen as well. Because I often judge a movie by the mobile phone scale, which is during a movie, if you pick up your phone and have a look at it and check your Instagram or your Facebook or your TikTok, that film is not that great. But
Mhm.
Chad messaged me and said, watch the film in the dark as
Yeah.
loud as you can. And literally, I did have to clean up a drink that I spilt on my sofa, and it wasn't great. I was scared to death. So yeah, I mean, that's the reason why it's set apart for me, and I think it's a great film that everyone needs to watch. I mean, do you two get scared in real life watching horror movies? And is there a certain one that has freaked you out?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I
Which one?
think we learned this earlier today that Ellie and I are just like the worst. Like we
We're
can't really
so
walk.
scaredy cats.
Scary, scary cats. My husband's very into it, loves horror, is very well versed in it, but I'm just sort of starting to be in this world of horror. I do remember watching, I don't know if it's considered horror, but remember that movie Children of the Corn? Is that horror?
Oh, yeah, that is horror.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, that's how it all started, because I watched that when I was like 11 or 12, and I was like, never again, nothing, no,
yeah.
can't.
That is
Terrified.
that is awful. And I just want to know, out of curiosity, because there's certain stories around people making horror movies and things going on in the background, a bit like The Exorcist. There was
Right.
odd things that happened down, like the set burnt down and everything like that. Did anything strange happen while on set?
Well, I think for me, like I've okay, first of all, to answer your previous question, the ones that scare me the most are definitely The Exorcist. It's funny you bring that up. And Wreck, also, which I think is a Spanish film. That's like I can't those really scare me. So I'm scared easily when I'm on set, I think that sometimes your imagination goes a little too crazy, and that happened a couple times on it. Well, not really. I think that w- I've been in that situation before where I had filmed a horror when I was a kid and we were shooting it in an abandoned mental asylum for like children. And I was convinced that I was being haunted by the little kids there. I'm like, they're after
Wow.
me. They want to play with me, you know? Um, so I've been there. I think this one, it was easy to do that because the monster that we deal with is practical. So she's literally standing in front of you and she is terrifying and
Mhm.
slimy and she's
Mhm.
got hair falling out and you're like, wow, that's really disgusting. So I think for me it was kind of a feeling of ickiness more than like impending fear, which is different and I think probably just as cool to work with on
I
set.
mean, with the creature is amazing in this
Mhm.
film. I mean,
Mhm.
out of curiosity, again, before you shoot those scenes, does the creature stay away from you until it's ready to shoot, or is the creature there sipping on a Starbucks through a straw? Until it's action, or I mean, how does that work to build that suspense and that sort of emotional side of your character?
Mm.
Well, she's
Well,
got like 20 minutes. She has like 20 minutes to work because
Oh
she's
wow.
yeah.
in like crazy contacts and full on prosthetics. So there is like I'm not familiar with prosthetics, but she had like 20 minutes to get whatever take they needed done once she was in full makeup. So it was always a very quick procedure, it seemed. I never interacted with her personally, but there was one time where she was waiting to do the scene after me, and I came into the living room, scared the shit out of me. She was just standing there in the corner. What the hell? Like, but I don't know, like, Ellie, were you, like, terrified from with her all the time? I don't know, or is she just, like, this hilarious person? I don't know.
Well, yeah, she's so sweet. Like I think what would scare me the most is she wouldn't be sitting in the green room like hanging out or anything, but I would be maybe just like sitting on my phone and thinking about something and then I would see out of the corner of my eye like a black ghostly figure cross through the door frame and I'm like, "Oh, there she is. She's alive and well, ready to go." So that would be creepy and then the scenes where we have a couple where we're pretty they're somewhere we're really close together. So I would be really seeing all the details and the goriness, even things down to like the smell of the prosthetics and things like that, things that you don't consider.
Mhm.
Were really creepy. So she wasn't necessarily hanging around, but there was kind of a looming presence of, oh, I guess that she's probably in there getting her 8 hours of prosthetics done. So
Oh, that
Mhm.
must be absolutely horrid for the skin. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Being in that and then afterwards taking it off but the actress that plays the monster is I've got the name. I couldn't
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn
Yeah,
Marshall, that's it.
yeah,
She's
Yeah.
a very accomplished dancer, and you can tell
Yes.
that physically as well by the movements
Yeah,
that make it even scarier. So you both have some,
totally.
so many incredible scenes. So I just want to find out what were your favorite scenes, and this could be from the fact of the person you're working with, or your shining moment as your characters. So Juno, for Agatha, what was your
Yeah.
favorite scene to shoot?
Well, I think one of my favorite scenes to shoot, it was early on in the shoot, and it was a night shoot, and I'm not the greatest on night shoots, but this was really fun. We were out in the middle of the bush somewhere, and we were digging. Oh, can I say things? I don't know
Of course you
what I'm
can.
supposed to say.
Yeah, you can
Anyway,
say
okay,
whatever you want.
we were digging, and but it had to be like we had to be on our knees and the shovels were cut in half because we're giving an illusion that we were working with those kinds of like movie magic moments. And
yeah.
then like a week later we shot the rest of that scene in a studio, and in my mind I was like, I don't think this is going to translate, like this is how are they going to make this crazy, like two sets, one's super deep, one's shallow, half shovels. And then when I watched it, I was like, genius, looks
Yeah, you wouldn't have
amazing,
noticed. You wouldn't have
seamless.
noticed.
Yeah, Wouldn't have
See,
noticed. So I
we
love that.
find out about the movie magic there, that it was in 2 locations, and we wouldn't have known. And
Wouldn't
and
have
and
noticed.
yeah, and Ellie, what about you? Because you have some amazing scenes, you really do. I mean, which is your
Yeah,
favorite?
thanks. I think there were some reading the script, I'm like, don't know how we're gonna how we're gonna do that one. Um, so my character, since she's so headstrong, she gets herself into a lot of situations where she shouldn't be. Um, I found a lot of joy in the scenes where she's kind of having to build up the strength to like do a stupid thing. You know, when you're watching a horror movie and you're like, "Girl, don't go in the fucking basement." Like, are you
Right.
serious? So, so um, I had a lot of fun trying to really breathe truth into that and try and feel like, no, actually, it does make sense that she would want to do this. It does make sense that this is what needs to happen. So just those moments of really trying to build up the courage, um, and be that girl, be that warrior and push through. And then of course there were a bunch of situational things where it was just so much fun. We had a lot of cool rigs. Um, there was one we were gonna use. I don't know if it made it into the final cut, but it was like a kind of circular rig where the camera was situated in front of Ashley, and she would kind of fall backwards and the camera would go with her. So
Yes.
there was a lot of really cool just technical things that I was nerding out about. I was in like I think my third year of film school, like the summer of my third year of film school when we shot it. So I loved that kind of stuff. I'm in a lot of tight spaces with sometimes with the creatures. So those were kind of when those smells were happening and it was so fun. So lots
I
of good
think
opportunities.
I think Agatha got away with a lot of stuff. I think you got like not as many nasty moments. I mean, talking about Chad, the director, it's always good to have a great director, and I am speaking with Chad in a second. So spill the dirt, ladies.
Okay.
Tell me some secrets about him. Was he a good director, and what was the best piece of you know directorial direction he gave you on set?
Well, for me, I loved how Chad was able to bring the comedy into this very dark world, and I thought that he did that brilliantly in a very seamless, non like distracting way. I thought felt it was very human, and so being able to work collaboratively with a director on what's the tone, how far do you want to go with this, can I say this? Like I like to improv as well, so I felt like I was in a really safe environment to be able to bring my creativity towards the project and also honor what his vision was. And that's for me, that's an amazing, amazing director because they're holding this space, this container for all of these creatives to bring their best work. And I thought he did it brilliantly.
Yeah.
Excellent. And what about you, Ellie?
Well, I think Chad has always come across to me as somebody who is very well versed in the genre that he's working
Mhm.
in, very into horror and understands it as an art form. So
Mhm.
when I would, be doing these scenes, and I think as actors, you can't really think about much other than what you're in the scene to do. You can't
Mhm.
think about, okay, where's the camera moving? And you can to a certain extent, but it becomes a little bit distracting. So you want to just focus on what's on your plate. Chad was very helpful in that he's the guy to say, okay, remember the genre. Well, he came up with something that was really helpful to me called horror movie timing. So he would say, okay, right, like it
Yeah.
would be, I'm like moving in a way that I feel, a human would, and that's fine. But when you need to up that intensity and bring in that kind of horror movie feeling, you've got to do things really at sometimes 50% of the speed or 75% of the speed in order to create that atmosphere. So that's
Mhm.
something that I wouldn't be thinking about, but he is an artist in that way where he understands the genre very deeply and could guide me
Mhm.
in that correct direction, because horror is very hard to get right in that way. Same with comedy,
Mm.
like we
Mhm.
were talking about earlier. Um, where the pacing is so important. So I felt that I could trust him to be able to put me in a universe that is oftentimes very different than what we live in real life.
And it's great because obviously you as performers, you know, you can be the best actors in the world, but it's all about the script, the words that are being put into your mouth, and everything around it. And this is what I love about this film. You know, forget these big studio blockbusters. You know, I find the lower budget films, I just think are a lot better. They've got a lot more
Mhm.
Yeah,
heart.
yeah.
They don't have to answer to giant studios and everything like that. If we did get a sequel, if we'd got a sequel, where would you like your characters to go without trying to spoil anything? I don't know if we can do that. I mean,
Mhm.
where do you see, say, Agatha in 5 years' time?
Well, I think I would like to see her origin story. I would like to see sort of, behind the scenes of what makes her her, and maybe, in that, what is the thing that she needs to overcome? Or what is the thing that she needs to look at in her past to be able to then proceed as her full self into the future. So I think that would be fascinating. I hadn't even thought of that until people started talking about, maybe this question, and I was like, oh yeah, that would be, because she's such a different kind of creature, so it'd
Yeah.
be interesting.
And there's so
Yeah.
much in this film that it leaves you wanting so much more. And
Yeah.
you want to find out where this story goes. So what about your character, Ellie? Where do you see her in 5 years' time? Without spoiling
Yeah.
anything.
Well,
It's hard, isn't it?
no, I think I can. I'll step or I'll tiptoe a little bit, but yeah, I think that it's really a story about mother daughter, a mother daughter relationship, and so I think a natural progression of that would be something like, seeing Jordan, the daughter, kind of follow in her mother's footsteps and explore their their legacy, or what her mother has the work her mother's been doing, without saying
Mhm.
much more than that. I think that would be really interesting, and would be a pretty natural progression for Jordan.
Well, fingers crossed. When I speak to Chad, I'm going to try my best to try and get this ball rolling. But the last question: why should people go and watch this film? In your own words.
Do you want to go first?
No, you go.
Okay. So, I was just gonna say that I think, especially right now, it is important to, support those indie films. Like you were saying, they do often
Mhm.
have a lot of heart, sometimes more than the things that we spend bajillions of dollars on. I think Chad has a very strong vision in this film, and he was really allowed to take the reins in a way that made for a great final product. Um, I think it's important to support independent Canadian cinema as well right now, for those that are Canadian. I think that it's a great opportunity. We're going to be showing it for Canadian Film Day in Toronto, and that's a free screening. I believe it's sold out now, which was crazy. But yeah, to be able to support, especially in right now's political climate, I think it's important. And also, I think it's just a good movie. I think that it tackles the horror genre in a way that is different, because we were talking about this idea that when it's supernatural or spiritual or kind of demonic, we can ramp up these ideas in our
Yeah.
mind. But I think the film is kind of about saying, actually, yeah, we do all have these demons, accept it, and here's what we can do with that. Here's what must be done with that. I think it's different in that way, and something I've never seen when I was reading it, when I saw it, and the final product. Yeah, I think people will walk away with something important.
Excellent. Great answer. And
Thanks.
Juno?
I echo everything Ellie said.
Agree with everything.
I just am a very agreeable person. No, but I also feel like it's a ride. It's such a ride,
Mm.
and it's really fun, and it's great entertainment, and it's written really well, and it's shot really well. The music is off the charts. Like the composer, the score, I was like, who the heck is
Yeah.
this? Like, it's everybody's brought their A game, and it's just a blast. Yeah, people are
And
going to
this
really
film
enjoy it.
is released on the 16th of April in Canada, April the 18th in the US, and May the 12th in the UK. So go out
Hey.
and watch It Feeds. But Ellie and Juno, thank you so, so much for joining me, chatting about this wonderful film. Thank you so much for that incredible experience that I had watching it 3 times. Look after yourself and keep safe.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.